1, and we're live.
Morning, everyone. It's nice to have you as part of our meeting today. Today is May 28th, and this is a remote meeting via Google Meet. We have on this meeting, this board meeting, members from our Department of Natural Resources on screen and connecting by phone. From the department, we have our department director, Jeff Rasmussen. We have Dave Harris, Scott Strong, and Chris Haller. And in terms of our board members, thank you, board members, for attending today. On the screen and those connecting by phone, we have myself, Bob Murray, the chair of the board of the Parks and Recs board. We have Alicia Colthorpe has joined us, Kevin Christensen, Corey Cram, Claudia Jarrett, and Doug Thompson. And we're hoping that Natalie Randall will join us. And when she does, we will announce her arrival on this video and on this call. So we're officially calling this board meeting to order. It is shortly after the hour of 10 o'clock. We are grateful that you are all here, and thank you for taking the time to be with us. We have now just gone through the attendance, and we don't have really any introductions to make. So the first item of business is the approval of the agenda. And board members, you've had a chance to look at the agenda, and if there are any questions, I'll take those now. And if there's not, I will accept a motion to approve the agenda as it stands.
I so
I believe we have a motion from Doug Thompson. And do we have a second to accept the meeting minutes or the agenda as it stands?
Mr. Chair, this is Kouri. I would second that motion.
Okay, thank you, Corey. We have a motion and a second, and I guess we need to go through and ask everyone for your approval of the agenda. So I will do that by going through an alphabetical approval, starting with Alicia Colthorpe. To approve the agenda.
And Alicia, you're on mute if you didn't know that.
Oh, yes, approved.
Kevin Christensen.
Yes, I approve.
Corey Cram.
Yes, I approve.
Claudia Jarrett.
I approve.
And Doug Thompson.
I approve.
All right, the approval has been unanimous. Thank you for that approval. We'll move forward and we'll talk about the approval of the minutes from March 5th. Did everyone have a chance to review the minutes from our March 5th meeting? And does anyone have any changes or additions?
Chairman, I already sent my corrections in to Kate. She tells me that she's made those corrections, but in the set that you got, there are some typos that I'm not going to talk about, but there is one that if you read the minutes that you got in your packet, under board member reports, the fourth paragraph says that I ran a marathon. There is no way in HELL I can go 23.5 miles in a marathon. So I actually watched my son run a marathon, and that's why I was in Snow Canyon. So just make note of that. Kate already knows. I think that was already corrected in the minutes, but in case you read them and wondered about that, I wanted to clarify I did not run a marathon. And with that, if nobody else had corrections that they sent to Kate, I'll move approval.
Okay, we have a motion.
Claudia, all your edits have been incorporated.
We have a motion from Claudia to approve the minutes. Do we have a second?
Yes, this is Kevin. I'll second.
Thank you, Kevin. We have a motion and a second, and we'll go down the line, alphabetical order again for approval with Alicia Colthorpe.
Approve.
Kevin Christensen.
Yes.
Corey Cram.
Yes, I approve.
Claudia Jarrett.
Yes.
And Doug Thompson.
I approve.
Thank you, everyone. The motion has been made and approved by all, and we'll continue to move forward with a challenge to Claudia to put that on your bucket list. I think that's a great goal, to run a marathon. All right, we'll go to the board member reports. We'll follow the same order as before, and turn some time over to Alicia Colthorpe first for any board any reports that you have on parks in your district. Alicia.
Hi, everyone. Well, I haven't been able to get out as often as I would because of the COVID-19 and so many things going on. But this week, actually, we are hosting our big jamboree, and I wish that you were all here and we were riding and having a really good time. But since we can't do that, maybe another time. But we have been working with state parks on that, and they're actually out guiding on a trail that will go through Steinecker State Park. And so that's been fun to work with them on that, and they've been great help with the jamboree. I was able to go boating at Red Fleet on Memorial Day, and that was nice. And it was busy, not quite as busy as the parks in the southern part of the state, but definitely busy for Vernal. And they've had so many people here camping with Dinosaur National Monument closed. They've had their campground full every weekend since it's warmed up. So that's been really nice for them and a really nice boost. It's great to see water in Steinecker State Park again. After having it drained last year, it's fun to see people out recreating and fishing and camping there and really seeing the park have its potential. Over spring break, we were able to go and shoot at the archery range that was installed there last fall. And that's an awesome experience. If anyone is an archery shooter, they've really done a great job with that and all the animals that they have out there that you can target practice at. And Cole's done a really great job on the archery range. So that was fun, and that was one time I was able to get out. The Fieldhouse Museum is doing well. They've been hit hard due to visitation, so that's been kind of sad for them. And then also they partner in with the city and the county on the visitor center, and funds are hard right now, and so I'm not sure how that's going to turn out next year. I hope that we can still have our visitor center and be able to be partners there with them, but there definitely will be some different budgeting going on there based on the funds that have came in. In the tourism world, COVID-19 has really hit us really hard. Our hotel tax, which pays for our marketing and pays for our partnership stuff, took an 80% decrease for March and April. So that was, we expected that, but when those numbers come out, it's really a lot harder to swallow than what you really think. And I haven't been over to Starvation yet because I haven't really been out of Uinta County. So, but we'll get over there. We'll go boating and maybe camping in the next few months, and hope to get around to a few more state parks around the state as well this summer. And that is my report.
What a great report. Thank you so much, Alicia. You're always on top of the stuff in your area, and I appreciate that thorough feedback on your state parks. Kevin, let's go with you next.
Okay, great. So I want to talk a little bit about Palisades State Park. They've been super busy this spring. I guess all the people out of school, they've had just tons of visitation, more visitation than they did last year at the same time period. So that's a good thing as far as visitation. At Palisade, they've been making some improvements. They're working on a hiking trail on the west side of the lake, and then looping down along a ridge. That trail should actually be done this week. Local mountain bike club has been doing the work. The state park has also put in 3 restrooms, and so they're kind of expanding the lower section below their dam. So hopefully there'll be, there seems to be fairly good water at this time. Hopefully that lasts through the summer. But things are going pretty good in our area for state parks. We, like Leisha, our hotels have taken a big hit with this outbreak, but hopefully it'll start coming back this summer. So The Palisade also has had some golf tournaments this summer. They're still scheduled. They did postpone their fishing tournament, which was going to be in May. That's going to be scheduled again for September. So hopefully things will be okay there. And that's all I have to report.
Terrific, Kevin. Thank you so much. Kouri, let's go with you next.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. It's been kind of crazy down here in the south part of the state with the COVID things taking place. We've, with our national park shut down, with Lake Mead Recreational Area shut down, we've been overrun largely with people from Nevada. And so we had to do a bunch of management decisions, different things, and pleased with the the direction from the governor's office, and then the coordination with the state office, the region, and our local managers. Sand Hollow had to limit entry on a bunch of days and eliminated the beach camping just because the social distancing was impossible. Doing really good decisions just to keep recreation open, and people need these opportunities, but to still have it appropriately managed. Gunlock, we had some challenges there with the waterfalls over the dam is a huge attraction. And there, the parking was a big challenge to keep it safe. We had probably hundreds of cars parked along the highway. John Allred has done a wonderful job with adding some infrastructure there, a little toll booth, a little bridge, and trying to take advantage of the visitors and keep things safe as much as possible. There was a serious injury, and seems like that happens every time we have water over the falls. So we did take some management steps and to just manage the number of people there and to keep things safe. And so what we did is we opened up the water at the base of the dam and basically shifted the amount of water that was going over the falls and released that at the base of the dam. And over the course of about a day and a half, eliminated that attraction. So we still had a lot of people coming to Gunlock Reservoir, to the state park, but tried to make that a little safer. And I think that was a success. Quail Creek got a lot of people that were shifted over there from the other state parks. Snow Canyon is doing some good things. They were able to do some resurfacing and managing things during this COVID thing. Sand Hollow did an asphalt project that was a huge improvement there. We also had some good improvements with our concessionaire at Sand Hollow. Some improvements have been needed for a long time, and pleased to see that. It's a big step in the right direction. Frontier Homestead, Todd, that's been there, was the manager for the longest time, retired. And so we had a change there with a gal from the regional office. And so we're looking forward to things getting back on the ground there. A lot of this has had a big impact on Frontier Homestead with COVID and not being able to host the activities that they have. A little different situation than our other state parks. And so that's a struggle, and we're hoping we can, get out of that. But good things happening. I went to Coral Pink Sand Dune State Park and enjoyed there, and just the quality of the facilities and people doing a good job and taking pride in our state parks, and just really appreciate our managers and our staff that we have out there making a big difference. And that's my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Kouri. COVID-19 has literally just turned our world upside down, and certainly has had a huge impact on our state parks. I'm really glad that they remain open and that our staff is doing the best they can with these restrictions. And we'll hear more about that from our division reports later. Let's go to Claudia. Claudia, your report.
Well, I'll start with the cons first. So I was planning to go to Cedar City for Easter and go to the Frontier Homestead. Of course, couldn't do that. So then I went to St. George for Mother's Day weekend and was going to go see Gunlock and the water of the falls. Thanks, Kouri. Couldn't see that. that was good.
Hey, Claudia, I have to interject a little bit. As you know, in our last board meeting, you were the one that requested that I have the files going for your visit. And I thought you were coming a little bit earlier. And so we made that happen, but then it just got out of control. But I think if we went back to the recording of the last meeting, it's very clear that you requested all that water discharging. We did make it happen for you.
Sorry, I just couldn't get out until Mother's Day. I was a little worried about going places outside of my county, if you remember.
I understand.
Okay, so now the pros. So my family all went to Antelope Island. It was kind of a nightmare getting in, but this was before you closed it to only those from the county. So they live in Weber, but were able to sneak in Davis County to Antelope Island. It was a nightmare getting in, but once they got in there, they truly enjoyed their time at Antelope. So people just wanted, my family especially wanted to get out. They had it being isolated and home and homeschool, by the way. Also, I've had reports about how Palisade is full. Like reservations are still, you can't even book there now. So that's really positive that there's been a place for people to go and get out in the elements, get out in the sun, get out in the clean air. So those are my positives. And just a kudos to all of the staff and officers and rescue teams during this time, because I've heard of so many accidents and deaths in our state parks, and just the tremendous work that those people that work in the staff and like I said, officers and rescue people that work at those parks have done to try to make it safe, but also bring about some safe recoveries. So kudos to them.
Thank you, Claudia, that report. Let's go to Doug Thompson. Doug.
Thank you. I actually haven't gotten out much for some reason or other. And but I'm really looking forward to getting over to Bear Lake to see the improvements they've done over there, and to get down to check on Hiram and Willard Bay. But I really don't have much to report other than that.
Thank you, Doug. I'm with you on that. I have, because of COVID-19, I've kind of just kept my distance too, but I know that they're making significant improvements on Antelope Island, and maybe that'll come out in some of the direct reports today. But it's wonderful. People want to get out. They want to recreate. More than anything, they want to get out of their homes and breathe some fresh air and have an experience. And they can still always find a great experience at any of our state parks. And we're blessed to have those gems in our state. It is 10:20, and we are moving along very well. Our next item on the agenda is our division reports. And so maybe we can have Scott Strong take the business report at this time. We're about 10 minutes ahead of schedule. So, man, we're efficient in running this meeting today. Thanks, everyone, for your participation at this time. Scott, we'll go to you for your division report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. I want to cover just 3 topics this morning with you. The first is the financial impacts of COVID-19, some cost savings measures that we've implemented, and then some revenue generating ideas that we've thought of through this process. So back to the financial impacts. The first one is, I think you all are very aware and you've talked about it, but we've had to close a lot of campgrounds throughout the state. And while we've kept all of our day use areas open, we have closed some of those campgrounds, which in the southeast part of the state has been a huge financial impact to the division. Overall, we've seen the operating profit and loss decrease by about $1 million when we compare last year to this year at the same period of time. So we have seen that impact, and that's about almost a 22% decrease from last year at this same period of time, which is a big deal. In the northern region, it's down about 8.5%, so not quite as drastic. In the southwest region, it's down 2.75%. And in the southeast region of our state, and like Leisha mentioned, we're down 68%. That's been huge, and mostly because of the restrictions and stringency that was placed upon those parks. The one really bright spot from all of this is that our golf courses at Wasatch Mountain State Park and Soldier Hollow golf course are up about 76%. And that's important to note that most of those folks are from the county. They're not coming, they weren't able to come from outside of the county. So that's amazing to see that. And it is just another testament of how people want to get out and enjoy the outdoors and the clean air. Some of our cost savings measures that we've been looking at are our building blocks. So those are the special requests that we have made from the legislature over the past couple of years. And we've really taken a very close look at those to say, which of these new monies can we hold back, or what projects do we want to move forward? We have several large projects that we do still want to move forward with. And we believe a lot of those projects would generate income very quickly, but that's part of our cost savings measure. Also, we've held back or frozen any hiring for the last little while, and we'll probably continue that for the next few months, but we're holding back 7 positions right now, that's significant. We have about 195 full-time positions, and we've got 7 so far that we're holding back. And then the last one, and this is really hard to deal with, but you know that we've got some incentive programs to reward high-performing employees, as well as promotional opportunities and things like that. And we're holding back all of those incentive awards and promotions at this time. And then the last part of what I wanted to just briefly talk about was the revenue ideas that we've implemented over the last little while. Kouri mentioned our friends from Nevada who have discovered southern Utah and are coming in huge groups and enjoying our parks, and we appreciate their patronage. But they do have a huge impact on our parks, our park staff, facilities. So Jeff has been working on potentially implementing a fee for out-of-state folks, and he's been working very hard on that. I'm pretty sure he'll mention that in his report, but I wanted to just briefly touch on that. And then one of the really neat things that we've been able to do is create an online sales system. So it's done a couple of things. It reduces the direct contact our staff has with the visitor and vice versa, but it also gives the visitor an opportunity to pre-buy a pass to a park and schedule out their event. And when we do this, we've limited the number of available passes at some parks like Sand Hollow, and as Kouri mentioned, it's been extremely busy down there, and we've had capacity limits and things like that. But if you were to buy one of these Eventbrite passes for Sand Hollow, it guarantees you a spot at the park. So that's been a really neat thing. And just because I'm a numbers person, I wanted to share some of the page views. And each park has its own page where you go to buy a pass. Sand Hollow has 9,700 page views in the last couple of months. Gunlock has got 4,300. Antelope Island has 7,600. At the OHV park in about 50 to 75% of all the passes or all of the entry fees that they collect come through Eventbrite. And then Goblin Valley had about 3,100 page views in the last 6 or 8 weeks. So that's really neat. And just in closing, I wanted to also thank our seasonal staff, our full-time staff, our leadership team who has done an excellent job, and Dave and Jeff who have worked tirelessly through this process, as well as the department leadership team. This is a very unique circumstance. None of us could have ever thought of this or planned for it, but it's neat to see how everybody has come together and put so much hard work into it. And then lastly, I just would like to thank the board for your support and attention too. And Mr. Chair, that's my report.
Thank you, Scott. That was excellent. Thank you for that business report. Any board members have any questions regarding the report that was just delivered by Scott? Any comments or questions? Okay. Thank you. Dave Harris, Deputy Director, let's go to you next for your report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Glad to be here this morning. Wish we were all together, but it's good to see everybody. I'm just going to segue from what Scott was saying just a few seconds ago. It's been an amazing time, and I remember a saying from a long time ago. I don't know where I heard it, but whether it was in the military or running track or cross country in high school, but when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And basically, that's all I can say about our staff this last couple months. It's been crazy with restrictions on the state and county level, and they're changing constantly. And everybody's been so responsive. Jeff would say, hey, we need to have a call because there was a big change, and we could get our leadership team on a call within, sometimes I think 10 minutes. And everybody on our leadership statewide was there and be able to talk through all these issues. And the region managers and the rest of the leadership team has just been awesome. And then the region managers communicating with their park managers. I think we're going to see a lot of good things in the future with the increased communication that we've had through this time. I have a few things, and since there wasn't a board report this time from the parks and regions, I was just going to hit on a few highlights from those. But just from my part in the main office, I think at one of the board meetings, we showed the new concept for our state park signs. The Jordan River OHV Park was kind of our guinea pig sign, and we got that done last fall. And we have phase one of a whole sign project. I think there's 5 or 6 signs that we're working on right now, and they'll be in the Wasatch back area, like the golf courses, Wasatch Mountain State Park, Deer Creek State Park, Rockport State Park, and then Fred Hayes State Park we threw in there since kind of an economy for a construction company to go build those monuments. So those the signs have been ordered and they're starting to come in, and the actual monuments, that construction project will start next Monday. So we're real excited about that. The Utah Office of Tourism donated 150,000 masks to state parks, and we distributed those to the highest profile areas, indoor kind of areas where people might want to have a voluntary mask that was free. So we delivered those to all the museums and visitor centers. Been working on some guidelines to get our guidelines caught up. They're quite old, and working on some rules that might be combining our special use permit rules into one rule, and hopefully I'll have that for you for the next board meeting. We were going to have some van tours this spring and summer and fall to get our park managers and other staff out to see other parks and other regions and compare notes, how they do things as a learning experience. We've had to cancel those. We're still evaluating fall, but we might just move that whole program off till next year. Wayne Monroe's been doing an awesome job putting all that together. And then getting into some of the region reports, the Southeast region Megan reports that just hats off to Goblin Valley staff and other rangers from around the state and conservation officers who helped with the SAR response after the flash flood in Little Wild Horse Canyon. Unfortunately, two little girls lost their lives in that flash flood. They had 2 great new region crew construction leaders join their team, and that's Tori Unsworth and Russell. So we welcome them to the staff there. The Paddle Fest at Red Fleet State Park, typically a June event, will be postponed until August, and hopefully things will be back to normal by then and they can have that event. And she just wants to thank all of her staff that really stepped up to handle the increased crowds, extra cleaning, and all the COVID precautions. At the North region, Laura reports that much higher day use visitation than usual. They figured their parks got going about a month earlier than normal. Rather than the middle of May, they were getting busy in the middle of April. They have had to put many projects on hold. Most major events have been canceled, and they've had lots of calls for assistance and LE. They've had difficulty in hiring and retaining some seasonals. People are actually getting paid more to stay home and collect unemployment, and others are scared to come back to work, even with the extra protective measures. All of our visitor centers and gift shops are now open. Some of those have been closed. The Echo Dry Hollow Campground, which is the new state park, should be open within a couple weeks, so we're looking forward to that. Hiram and Willard Bay State Parks have been hitting capacity every weekend, and even a lot of times during the week. I got a text yesterday that Hiram had hit their capacity for the beach, and that was at a Wednesday afternoon during the week. So we're busy. Earthquake and the aftershocks and Magna really shook up the Great Salt Lake Marina. Damage occurred to some infrastructure, and they continue to have spreading of cracks on the roadways. We had 2 girls that drowned at Utah Lake. You probably heard that in the news. It was an unfortunate event. Our staff were out there every day and part of the night looking for those folks, along with the sheriff's departments and other search and rescue. But fortunately, they were found, so the families can have closure there. And this is all during the COVID stuff. We also had 4 arson-caused fires at Wasatch Mountain State Park. The last one turned out to be very large, 680 acres, with some trail damage. Let's see. I think somebody mentioned, but Antelope Island, they're working on new campgrounds being designed there, and also improvements to the entrance station area. As Claudia mentioned, hopefully we can get folks in quicker. So we're looking at adding a lane there and doing some other things to get folks through the gate. And in the Southwest region, they report that Escalante, they're getting a replacement new entrance building. And then Wayne, I think they already mentioned that they have a new park manager at Frontier Homestead. She was originally the region secretary, and she's doing a great job there. Kodachrome, they put in a Frisbee golf course, and they're looking for that to be a great addition to the park. Kevin already covered Palisades, so I'll skip that. And I think Jeff's going to talk a lot about the Washington County parks and some of the things that we did down there, but just a few non-COVID related things for the Washington County parks. They had an intern at Snow Canyon that was going to do public school interpretive programs, but they wound up being canceled. But she was able to shift her focus and get those online. So that content is still there and still available, but online now. And they had some asphalt resurfacing at Snow Canyon. It's really going to help them out. Let's see. At Gunlock, they completed a fencing project, put in a bridge, and built a fee booth and added additional parking for the waterfall, of course. But and then at Quail Creek, their new entrance station has been great. They're still working through some of the internet connections, but they're getting there. And they've added power to the sites throughout the campground. Let's see. With the boating program, they wanted to report Jared Jones, who is the manager down at Lake Powell, was selected as the Western States Boating Officer of the Year. So that's an 18-state competition. So one of our rangers down there was the winner of that 18-state competition, and now his name will be thrown into the national competition. So with the other 50 states. So we wish him the best, and maybe being called the National Boating Officer of the Year. So we'll see. That'll be announced in the fall. The LE section has been working on some restructuring. We've combined the off-highway vehicle program, the law enforcement program, and the boating programs together to increase efficiency and coordination. And with that, one of the vacant positions we had, Steve Bullock, who was the manager at Deer Creek, accepted the position as lieutenant in the main office, and he'll help with that coordination. And LE staff and the program staff have been busy in the field, assisting mostly at the Washington County parks. They've hosted the LE Ranger School, which had to be totally, usually there are groups of people that are, ground fighting, wrestling on the ground, close contact with putting handcuffs and doing all those things. They had to redesign that whole school to get everybody through their 40 hours of mandatory law enforcement training. And Christopher Quick and his staff did a great job in converting that program from a hands-on, 30, 40 people in a classroom type thing to part online, part standing far apart, and just, doing it non-hands-on. So hats off to them for getting everybody through that. And then the OHV program, Chris Haller's been working on a lot of time on the OHV FIG grants, and you'll see the results of that here in a few minutes, I think. He's also been coordinating efforts with the counties on OHV-related issues to the COVID restrictions being lifted around the state. And they've also completed a Junior Ranger program booklet for the OHV program. And that is it for my report.
Dave, thank you.
I want to know where he is. Where is he? Are you camping somewhere?
Oh, no, I'm in my yard in my camper van. It's noisy in my house, so I figure I'll come out here and I wish I was somewhere nice by a lake or something, but no, I'm just in my yard.
I have a question for you, Dave. So our parks have been the haven for people just to get out of their houses. But has our staff, any of the staff, actually been affected by getting or catching the COVID-19 and had to be isolated or hospitalized? I mean, have they all been safe, or has it affected the parks in that way at all?
We've actually been very, very fortunate. And I don't know how much human resources will want me to tell. We're not supposed to know about people's health things, but we've had people's families affected by COVID. If the kids are home from school and there's nobody to watch the kids, we've had some people have had to take, it's called COVID leave. It's a special leave that they've had to take, but that's been the minimum. We've had folks that somebody in their family was close to somebody, or the health department deemed that, that they were under quarantine. So, but getting infected at the park because of work, I haven't heard of anything. But we have had a few people that were quarantined for a couple days because a family member brought it home from their work or from their whatever they did. But we've been very fortunate. It's been very good that way.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Any other questions or comments about the operations report from Dave? Dave, thank you. You're doing an awesome job. And maybe to piggyback on Claudia's question, how is the morale? We've asked the staff to do more than ever before, and in order to stay in alignment with all of the regulations and guidelines given to us by our governor. Can you maybe answer or comment on the general morale of everyone, and if they're getting stressed out with all of this?
We had a meeting with the region managers maybe 2 weeks ago now, and that was one of their main concerns is staff burnout, because everything started like a month early and we've had all these constant changes. But so we've asked them to continue to watch that, and we're watching that. But for the most part, I think morale is up. Everybody seems to be doing really well. The ones that I've been interacted with and talked to, and talking to the region managers, we did have a lot of concern from our parks, a few of our parks, when the whole COVID started, on the safety of their staff, and everybody was trying to provide the best we could. We had Justina, one of our leadership team. She was working on a best practices document and updated that very frequently when new procedures and protocols came out that helped protect our staff and our visitors. And I think that really helped. Everybody saw that we were following all the CDC guidelines and all the other recommendations that were out there. We were putting up plexiglass barricades between us and the customers, and doing creative things to protect our staff and to protect the visitors, and to comply with all the changing restrictions and directives that were coming from the state and from the counties. So overall, I think we're doing well. We're still going to have to watch the burnout factor, because, like I think Claudia said, people came to us, for their stress relief, and when we were sometimes the only area, that folks could go to. And then it caused a lot of stress when you can only go to a park in your county. And, some of our biggest counties have limited parks. So I hope that answered your question, Mr. Chair. If
That did. Hey, thank you so much. You're doing a great job, Dave. That's a big job to take care of the operations of the state parks, and you're doing a remarkable job there. Any other comments from board members? All right, let's hear from our division director, Jeff Rasmussen. Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everybody. Great to see you. I wish we could see you in person, but this will be the next best thing. I wanted to mention, Scott talked about one of our money-saving things that we've implemented, just expecting some financial impacts from everything that's been going on. And one of those positions that we've held is our administrative assistant that Kate formerly served in. And that's why she's here today. When you hold positions, that means that existing staff have to try to scramble and figure out how to cover those held positions, because the responsibilities are still there. And Kate's done a great job at doing that, and also starting with her planning and branding responsibilities and a whole bunch of other stuff that's been thrown at her as a result of COVID and everything that's going on. So thank you so much, Kate, for being here for one of those other duties as assigned. It's definitely been a challenge. I was going to talk about COVID and the impacts of COVID, and honestly, I really don't like to do that. It's not my favorite subject, but it's definitely dominated what we do in state parks and had a tremendous impact on what we do. Just briefly to cover kind of what happened, and I have to apologize. I wish I could have done better keeping all of you in the loop with what's going on with our parks. It was a real challenge because many times things changed multiple times each day. And as Dave mentioned, one of the things that we learned from the COVID challenges is it's pretty easy to get everybody on a virtual meeting. And I was going to talk about positives from COVID. One of the positives we found is that we can get our folks together very quickly on an electronic format, just like we're doing today, and have good discussions and be able to make decisions at the spur of the moment. And that's definitely been a positive, something that we've learned. So the restrictions started out late March with the county local visitation only to our state parks. And that was frustrating for a lot of people, especially people like me that live in a county without a state park, or counties, people that lived in counties that were adjacent to our state parks. But the good thing about that restriction is at least it kept our parks open. And one of the benefits that we saw from that was it got local people interested in going to visit their parks. And we saw a lot of local visitation. Like Claudia mentioned, people were just dying to get out and be outdoors and do something positive with their families and with kids home and all the stress that comes with that. It was great to be able to provide that outlet for people, and it made a big difference. Then we moved into the governor lifted the statewide restriction, and we went to individual county restrictions. And essentially, the easiest way to describe how that affected us was if you took a pen and just drew a line down through the center of the state from north to south. The eastern half of Utah was under local county health orders. The western half was pretty much open to everyone. That was a huge step in the right direction for us with state parks, because we were able to welcome everybody in those western county parks. Shortly thereafter, county by county started loosening their restrictions, and now we're to the point where we're open to everyone. And that's been a welcome change for us, and definitely a move in the right direction. Probably the hardest thing that we've had to deal with under the current situation in dealing with COVID-19 is that we've had to limit our park capacities. And I was telling our board chair earlier that it goes against everything that we've always done with state parks. We've always been, remember Fred's More philosophy, more people having more fun in more parks more often. kind of goes against that. And it's been difficult to shut the gates down and turn people away. But in the name of keeping people safe, keeping park capacities down so that we don't get them crowded to where people can't social distance, we've had to do that. We've been literally turning away hundreds of cars a day at many of our state parks. I was spending some time with my family last weekend before Memorial Day at Sand Hollow State Park, so I got to see it firsthand. And by 9 o'clock in the morning, they put cones out, and people coming into the park were then just directed right back out. And it's frustrating because a lot of those folks drove from a long way to come to the park and spend time with their friends and family. But something that we've had to do to be able to keep our parks open, keep people safe in the parks during COVID-19, and definitely a challenge. Kouri's mentioned the challenges in Washington County, so I'll just briefly cover through those. It kind of started with gun lock. You know, our southern Utah parks are the first to really open for the season, if you want to call it, each calendar year. And so when the falls started flowing at gun lock, the crowds just flocked. And with social media, word got out that it was a spectacular attraction, and it was. And we literally had hundreds, if not thousands, of cars showing up each day to go and visit the falls. Unfortunately, we got some very negative media attention during that time, making a point that we weren't properly managing those crowds. And it was a challenge at Gunlock because you can't shut the gate. It's a public road going through that area, and cars were able to park for miles along that roadway, and there was no way to control it. So just appreciate Kouri and Washington County Water Conservancy District for helping us make that change. And it was a really hard decision because it was such an awesome attraction. But with what we were dealing with and no way to be able to manage those crowds, it was the best thing that we could have done, and it made a big difference. Unfortunately, you solve a problem one place, it crops up somewhere else. So then everybody went to Sand Hollow. And unfortunately, the next weekend, we got some of that same media attention. There was pictures online of cars lining that highway outside of Sand Hollow for miles, and people walking in with lounge chairs and coolers. And it was just crazy busy. And complaints from local authorities and from local residents that there were traffic problems. And so we focused our resources there, and then it moved to Quail Creek. And it was kind of frustrating because and you can't blame people. They're wanting to get out and have a good time, and they've been cooped up for a long time. And so we focused a lot of resources in Washington County to help our parks better manage those crowds. And I would say for the most part, it's working pretty well with the reduced capacities, just with the challenge and frustration of not being able to accommodate everybody. However, as additional recreation areas in southern Utah have been opening up and throughout the state, it's starting to take some of the pressure off of our state parks, and there's more opportunities for people to visit other areas statewide. Also, with the super hot temperatures that are coming this weekend, I think that's going to help us out a little bit too, with some of the crowds that have been coming to those parks to recreate on off-highway vehicles. Riding on the sand in above 100-degree temperatures isn't very enjoyable. So our crowds should down, but as I mentioned, the crowds just shift and they're moving north to our northern parks, and we'll be working on those reduced capacities statewide. What else? So our goal throughout this is obviously to keep everybody safe, to keep our employees safe, to keep our visitors safe, and the reduced capacities have definitely helped with that. Like Dave mentioned, we also had Justina kind of be our unofficial COVID-19 best practices go-to, and she's been keeping up to date with the information that's online from the CDC, from local health departments, and giving our employees at our parks the latest and greatest information to make sure that they're safe, to make sure that we have hand sanitizer and masks and gloves when needed. And we've been doing a great job with that. We want to keep our parks open, and it's been so important that we follow these procedures, because when we don't and we get the negative press, then the governor's office gets pressured to close the parks. And I think it's working. It's making a difference, and it's providing a critical service that the public needs. Scott mentioned the out-of-state day use fees, and we are seriously considering and will likely implement an out-of-state increased entrance fee. More than likely just in the parks that are most impacted by out-of-state visitors. So when I was down at Sand Hollow a couple weeks ago, my wife and I, just for kicks, were looking at the license plates along the beach areas, the day use areas at Sand Hollow. And our guesstimate that it was 90% out-of-state vehicles that were attending the park that Saturday. And talking to the park managers, that's kind of been what's happening. And it's frustrating for people here in Utah that have contributed taxes to build and run our parks, and for local residents that want to be able to use those parks that haven't been able to access them. And we've also had complaints from some of the local leaders. I got an email this morning from a constituent that was upset about just the domination of our border parks from out-of-state visitors. And so we think it makes sense to have those customers pay a little bit more so that they're contributing to the resources that we're having to put at the parks to manage those crowds, and also keep the parks stocked with the proper, the garbage bags and toilet paper and road maintenance and everything that goes into running a park. And so we'll likely be implementing that very soon. We've got some budget cuts that are likely coming for all state agencies across the state of Utah, and we're not going to be exempt from that. We're expecting at least a 10% cut of our general fund appropriation. One of the great things about being a self-funded agency is our general fund. The general fund portion of our budget is less than 10%. So a 10% cut for state parks isn't as impactful as it would be for an agency that's 100% on general fund, but it still means a big number for state parks, and 10% for us means $500,000, and that doesn't come without some pain. Certainly that's not a done deal, and there's a lot of discussions with the legislature that have to take place before we know what it is, but we're planning that that's probably in the neighborhood of where it's going to be for our agency. So what that means for our state parks, unfortunately, we're going to be dealing with less staff as we hold positions. And we're going to have to manage some of the parks, some of the museums and heritage parks at reduced hours or days of operation. So let me back up. Our general fund appropriation for state parks, we use that money to run our heritage and museum parks, but we want to keep those parks open. And so what we're planning to do is backfill that cut with the restricted money that we use to run our recreation and scenic parks. So statewide, we're making some changes so that we can absorb that impact, but still keep all of our parks and museum and heritage areas open. So the decreased staffing is one of the efforts that we're making to make up some of that money. Pushing off some preventative maintenance work, which we hate to do, things like roads, utilities, building system maintenance that can be delayed, but if they're delayed too long, then you end up with bigger costs down the road. But in the short term, something that we can do to save some money, we're pushing off some of the improvement projects that we've been working on with campsite expansion, adding utilities to campsites, lodging, trail improvements, things that we had been planning to do, but they can wait to help us absorb this impact. So the budget cuts certainly don't come without pain, but as long as they're not long-term, we feel we can get through with our restricted account money. So I wanted to end on a positive note. I'm really happy that we're able to keep our parks open, and even though they're at reduced capacities, they're still available for the public. As I mentioned earlier, we've learned that we can accomplish a lot of the things that previously we did in person, and that's a good thing for last-minute meetings that need to happen. It's also a good thing to be able to reduce travel, and that's made a big difference. I mentioned that during the county only, the local resident restrictions, that a lot of our local county residents discovered, quote unquote, discovered their local state park. The other cool thing is a lot of out-of-state visitors that wouldn't have normally come to our parks, I think, have discovered our parks. And part of that Nevada contingent, a lot of that Nevada contingent that's coming to our parks probably would have never even thought about coming to Utah. And now they've discovered that we have some pretty cool things here in Utah. And so that's a really cool positive that I think is going to have a long-term impact. And as we're able to open the parks open to full capacity, we'll be able to accommodate a lot more of those crowds. Biggest thing that I'm thankful for with this is, as mentioned, as Dave mentioned, we've been able to keep our park staff healthy. And I think that's pretty impressive considering that many of them are on the front lines dealing with hundreds and hundreds of people a day. And I think that goes back to having those good hygiene practices with washing hands regularly and wearing face masks and just doing all the things that have been suggested to stay healthy. And we have nearly 1,000 employees when you add in the full-time employees, the part-time seasonal employees, and the volunteers. That's a lot of people making contact with the public. And I'm super happy that we've been able to keep everybody safe and healthy throughout this. Let's see. So the last thing I wanted to do is same thing that Scott and Dave did, just thank our staff. They've been amazing. COVID-19 has been a huge challenge for what we do in our state parks. And as I mentioned earlier, a lot of these changes happened on an hourly basis. And at times they were very frustrating, but our park staff, as Dave mentioned, as the going gets tough, the tough get going, they've stepped up and taken the challenge on and done a great job at it, and just appreciate their dedication and support of our state parks and also our departments. It's been hard rolling through these changes, and they've been a great help in supporting what we do. And I'm very thankful for this board. I love our current state parks board, and you're also great to work with, and appreciate your support and passion for state parks. The last thing I was going to mention, I believe, Bob, we were going to talk about nominating a vice chair since Ryan Starks left. And I talked to Bob offline before the meeting, and we decided that it would be best to push that off to the next meeting when hopefully we have a new board member to replace Ryan for his representation of Wasatch, Utah, Juab, and Millard counties. And we're anticipating that's going to happen. But just FYI, if you're wondering about that, our intention was to push it off to the next meeting. And with that, that's my report, unless you had any questions.
Jeff, I just wanted to comment on staff as well. You know, what COVID-19 has brought out is the best in people, sometimes the worst in people. And I just know in our local county, just the DMV issue was a nightmare. People were so mean and so cruel and so inappropriate in their comments. And it came about a lot because they wanted to register their OHV vehicles and couldn't get into our local office to register. So anyway, just kudos to your staff for always being positive and dealing with people. I'm sure that were angry at points in time and frustrated, like you said, but they always kept their cool and the upper hand. And lastly, just think of all the healthy people now you have coming out of Las Vegas that are no longer in those casinos and now know about fresh air in Utah.
Thanks, Claudia.
Any other questions for Jeff or comments? Jeff, thank you. Just our heartfelt thank you from the entire board. Your leadership and the leadership of your team has just been remarkable. And I mean, no one could have anticipated what this COVID-19 would do, and the way that you've just stepped up to the plate and addressed the issues and made it a positive experience for everybody, I think is remarkable. So thank you so much. Thanks for your report. For those of you who are following the agenda, we're at number 4 right now. And I believe we have Chris Howler on the line to talk about the OHV fiscal incentive grant recommendations. Chris, we'll turn the time over to you at this point. Welcome.
Well, good morning, Chair, and good morning to the rest of the board. Great to see your smiling faces, and more importantly, some of your personal items in the backdrops. So, and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules. And I also want to commend our division administration and our staff for a wonderful job that they've been doing. Just a quick note, I know Scott is a numbers guy. And I found out yesterday that since the COVID outbreak, we have sold roughly 38% of our non-resident permits have gone to Nevada residents for OHV non-resident permits. So that just says something in addition to, and ironically enough, we are already 1,000 non-resident permits ahead of schedule this year in 4.5 months. Well, 5.5 months compared to all of last year in permit sales. So just some positive stuff for motorized recreation. So diving in on the agenda, I think our next item is the quarterly April FIG requirements that have been submitted for review, and I want to present those in front of the board with your permission, Chair.
Go ahead and do that. Thank you.
All right, so we have 4 grants that were 4 out of 5 grants applications that were submitted. 4 of those have been recommended by the OHV Advisory Council for a total of $56,250. These are on the ground projects, and we also have 1 tourism related item. So the overall project amount is $91,263, but these 4 applications are requesting $56,250 from the OHV grant program.
Are you going to be addressing these individually, or everyone received this in your board packet? Have you had a chance to review each of those items? And if so, I can take a motion to approve the 12 recommended traditional OHV grant applications for
I
April.
just have a quick question, Chair. Since Jeff just talked about the decreased revenue that's happening to state parks, and since these are kind of matching grants, is there concern that the grant money is there for one thing, or that the matching grant money will be there to complete these projects, given everything that's happened with COVID-19?
Chris, can you address that? Absolutely, and great question, Claudia. And yes, our division director Rasmussen highlighted some of those budget issues associated with the division. However, given the OHV program, this is one of those items that's rather unique for the division. And when I say unique, this is a pay-to-play type concept. So 2 years ago in 2018, the legislature passed House Bill 143, which basically allowed the state park board to increase the registration fee from $18 to $35. The board did make that recommendation, and it was approved. And so this is funds that have been received under the OHV restricted account due to that registration fee increase. So the funding is there, and it's quite healthy. And so we, as an OHV program and as a division, see no potential impacts associated with awarding these grants for this current fiscal year. Keep in mind that the fiscal year ends on June 30th of 2020, with the new budget year beginning July 1st of 2020.
Wonderful. Thank you for that question, Claudia. Any other questions for Chris?
Well, I'll make the motion, Chair, to approve the 4 recommended quarterly fiscal incentive grant applications for April of 2020 as presented.
Okay, thank you for that motion. And do we have a second?
Mr. Chairman, this is Kouri. I would second that motion.
Thank you, Kouri. So let's individually do an approval, starting with Leisha Colthorpe.
I approve.
Kevin Christensen,
Yes, I approve.
Corey Cram,
Yes, I approve.
Claudia Jarrett,
Yes.
Doug Thompson. Doug Thompson.
I couldn't get my mic on. Yes, I approve.
And I don't believe Natalie Randall has joined us. Natalie, are you there? Okay. All right. The motion has been made and seconded and approved by all board members. We will move on to our next item, which is get back to my agenda page, which is the OHV program traditional, or is the OHV Advisory Council appointment, Tyson Todd. Chris, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I think that we may have the traditional OHV grants
You're
next,
absolutely
which
right.
are the 12. Sorry, I'm not trying to correct you. I just want to make sure we're following the agenda.
My mistake. My mistake. Number 5 on the agenda, OHV program traditional grant recommendations. Take it away, Chris. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the OHV program received 12 applications that varies from different projects from around the state. Some of those are equipment purchases associated in Garfield County, along with trailheads and restroom facilities in the town of Marysvale. If any of you have ever visited Marysvale, home of the Paiute Trail System, you know that on-town parking and things along those lines and trailhead access within that community is pretty non-existent unless you go to the city park. So this is going to, one particular grant application is going to help fund 2 different trailhead locations in Marysville, one on the north end of town, one on the south end of town, for parking, along with restroom facilities that will be maintained by Marysville town. In addition, another grant application was submitted by Paiute and Garfield counties collectively to assist with the paving of the Butch Cassidy childhood home site located in Garfield County, and most of you are very familiar with that. And this is to help address some of the freeze-thaw items associated with that facility. And then lastly, one other item I wanted to point out on an application we received from Wayne County. It's to help them identify and GPS coordinates for potential future OHV route systems within Wayne County, which we know Wayne County is lacking some OHV trail opportunities, and they want to be able to further expand their OHV opportunities. So, given the 12 applications, the overall project amount is greater than $1.5 million, and the overall requested awarded amount from the OHV program for grants, $848,713.
Okay, terrific. Thank you, Chris, for presenting the OHV program traditional grant recommendations. Do we have a motion on accepting?
Yes.
Recommendations.
This is Kevin. I will make a motion to approve the 12 recommended traditional OHV grant applications for April of 2020 as presented.
Terrific. Thank you, Kevin. And do we have a second on that?
This is Doug. I second.
Okay, thank you, Doug. And individually, let's go to each of you for your comment or for your approval or non-approval. Alicia Colthorpe.
I approve.
Kevin Christensen.
Yes.
Corey Cram.
Yes, I approve.
Claudia Jarrett.
Yes.
And Doug Thompson.
Yes.
All right, thank you, everyone. We've got the motion. It's been seconded and approved by all. Thank you so much. We will move on to item number 7. And Chris, this is for you, the OHV Advisory Council appointment for Tyson Todd.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you, board members, for approving those applications to fund those grants. So what we currently have in front of us, Chris Fawcett accepted a position higher up, so to speak, in the food chain within SITLA. Chris now is the Assistant Deputy Director for SITLA, which is the School Institutional Trust Lands Administration. Chris has been a member of the OHV Advisory Council since 2005. So I have a nickname for him. I call him the Senator because it seems like he's been in there long standing for a number of years. And so he will greatly be missed by the Advisory Council and his direction and guidance along. However, we are also excited about his replacement, which we did receive a letter of nomination from SITLA, and this is for Tyson Todd. Tyson is currently working out of the Vernal SITLA office and has been born and raised in the Uinta Basin. So we present this in front of the board today to approve Tyson Todd as the SITLA appointment to the OHV Advisory Council.
Thank you, Chris. We have a motion to appoint Tyson Todd. I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, this is Kouri. I would make a motion to appoint Tyson Todd to serve as a SITLA representative on the OHV Advisory Council.
Great.
And this is Leisha Colthorpe, and I'll second it. And I just want to say we have the honor of Tyson works here in our county building remotely for SITLA, and he's a great guy. So I think that'll be a great addition to that board.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. Let's do an individual acceptance of this or non-acceptance. If you will just reply as I call your name, that would be great. Leisha Colthorpe. Leisha Colthorpe. Are you there for approval?
Sorry. I muted myself and unmuted myself, but yes, I approve.
Okay, Leisha, we knew that you did. Kevin Christensen.
Yes.
Corey Cram.
Yes.
Claudia Jarrett.
Yes.
And Doug Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. The motion has been approved by all board members for Tyson Todd to serve on the Advisory Council. Thank you, everyone. We're to item number 8 on the agenda, Recreational Trails Advisory Council appointment to Julia Geisler. Chris?
Yeah, thank you all. And once again, this is a vacant position on the Utah Recreational Trails Advisory Council, which is basically the non-motorized portion. And so Julia, or excuse me, let me back up. Dayton Kreitz, who was the previous at-large representative on the council, accepted another position for a career opportunity that took him to Vermont. So he's no longer within the state. So therefore, he had to resign. Dayton's previous employment was with Cache County. He was the Cache County Trails planner up there in northern Utah. So here before the board today is it's been recommended by the Recreational Trails Advisory Council that the board appoint Julia Geisler to that position of at-large representative. She's an avid trail user of all forms, including mountain biking, hiking, backcountry skiing, and Nordic skiing. And in addition to, she is the leader, if you will, president of Salt Lake Climbers Alliance, which is more rock climbing and vertical trails oriented type items. And so the council believes that she'll be an outstanding asset to them. And some of the things that she would like to do is on her objectives of why she wants to be part of the council is with the increased use of trails and information, or excuse me, with the increased use of trails and recreation infrastructure across the state, we will need to promote and act on more responsible use of outdoor landscapes if they are to survive. So that would be part of her primary focus, along with being an active participant on the council.
Thank you, Chris. I actually had a chance to read her profile and was really impressed. She will bring tremendous knowledge and skills and abilities to this appointment. So I'll take a motion on the appointment of Julia Geisler to serve as the at-large representative on the Recreational Trails Advisory Council.
This is Kevin. I'll make the motion to appoint Julia Geisler to serve as the at-large representative on the Recreational Trails Advisory Council.
Thank you, Kevin. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
This
I'll
is Doug.
second.
We had 2 seconds. Doug Thompson, I believe you punched in first, so let's go with your second, Doug. Thank you. Okay, let's go individual for approval. We'll start with Alicia.
Approved.
Kevin?
Yes.
Corey Cram?
Yes, I approve.
Claudia Jarrett?
Yes.
And Doug Thompson?
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. We've received a motion and a second, and it's been approved by all board members. And that will be a great appointment. I look forward to meeting Julia Geisler at some point. All right, our next item, well, we really don't have any other business, I don't believe. And so our next item is number 10, to set a next board meeting time and date.
Chair
Yeah.
Murray, before you move on to setting the next time and date, I just had a couple of small administrative items. I wanted to let the board know that per our discussion at our last meeting, your individual email addresses have been shared on the State Parks website, and that this meeting was open for public comment via a form, an online form that was posted along with our public notice, and that we did not receive any comments in support or against today's action items, although we did receive 2 comments that were neutral on all of those action items. So I'm not sure why those people felt the need to fill out the form, but it's lovely to see the public participating, and that's all I've got.
Okay, thank you, Kate. Do we have any recommendations for our next meeting? I'm thinking it's probably going to be towards the end of August. That would be a 3-month out.
Bob,
The day oh, sorry, go ahead.
and maybe you were going to say the same thing, Kate. I believe it was set for August 20th. That's what my calendar shows. And Kate's nodding her head yes. So
Yeah, that's what I have.
Okay, so if everyone's good with that date, we'll just stick with that for now, unless something comes up. And in terms of the location, let's just kind of see how things go. If some of the restrictions are lifted, maybe it'll be possible that we can meet together personally, at some state parks location. We'll give you some notice, heads up on that in advance. There's a lot of state parks that we could meet at, and so we'll make a decision and decide that.
I spoke to Southeast Region Manager Megan Blackwelder yesterday, and she expressed enthusiasm for hosting at whatever point that is possible in her region.
That would be wonderful. We haven't been there for a while, so that would be nice. In closing, I just want to express my gratitude to each of you for being on the call today, for all the work that you do in keeping connected with the state parks in your areas. Kate, thank you so much for setting up this video conference. It takes a lot of work to orchestrate something like this, and I just want to thank you and for taking the great notes, doing 2 jobs now. You're amazing. We thank you for all that you do. Also wanted to thank the technical team for putting this together. It's not real easy to orchestrate, a virtual call like this. And this has gone off without a hitch. And so thank you, Paul and Michael Christensen, Michael Van Hafen, for all your help here. And I will accept a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Mr. Chairman, really quickly, could we also just note on my calendar, I show November 19th as the next date following what we talked about. Is that correct?
That's what I have on my calendar as well.
Okay. And then just one last thing, Chris was commenting on all the unique backgrounds. I'm not in my camper in my backyard, but I do have my Utah Raptor claw right here. So that's pretty impressive, I think.
Thanks for sharing that. Yes. And you may have seen that I have a mask that I wear. A lady in my neighborhood made this for me, and it's pretty awesome. People actually say I look hot in my mask, but it's really pretty cool. I just want to encourage you to, social distance and wear your mask where you can and keep yourself and others safe. And let's get this behind us and move on to the new normal. I'll take a motion to close this meeting.
Mr. Chairman, this is Kouri. I'd make that motion.
Thank you, Corinne. Do we have a second?
This is Kevin. Yes, second.
Kevin, thank you so much. Everyone have a wonderful rest of the week. Thanks for all you do, and we'll connect again in August. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Miss you.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.